Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So, looks like we got our SWR problem fixed. Turns out it was the load coil in the Canadian Tire antenna that I bought for 15 bucks. Just to show you what I'm talking about, this is a load coil. Not exactly the same, but you'll get the idea. Now, at each end of the wire on the coil, you should have continuity. Now, in this style of load, you test here at the top of the antenna, and then of course your bottom end that screws into here, there's a little spring-loaded jobby in there, and you should have continuity on your shaft down below, and of course on your antenna. Now, what I was lacking was a continuity up top. I wasn't getting any, so that became a problem. So this is why I'm thinking, okay, SWRs are not coming down. I've chopped down an antenna again down to the last 4 inches, and this is really ticking me off. So I took the coil apart, and that's when I thought, well, there's a loose piece of wire that goes this way, loose piece goes this way, and you got an aluminum, or not aluminum, but steel collar on each end. The bottom end screws in and locks with a set screw. The other one's got a set screw just to lock down the aerial, but otherwise it threads on. So anyways, this wire is actually plastic coated, and so I had to just take my lighter and burn the coating off on each end, put her back over, screw her all back together, and voila, and my SWRs came way down. Well, of course, as a result of this, I also had to make a new whip, so I took a chunk of antenna rod. I'll grab out a piece of this stuff to show you. This is from an antique antenna that's also about 3 times thicker than the one that comes with the antenna from Canadian Tire. I'm sure that one would have been fine had I had a properly working coil, right? Anyway, so I shaved down the end for about 1 inch to about the same diameter as the hole, because it's really small. So I had something to jam in for at least 1 inch worth. And then of course I had to cut the ball off, and I had to chop almost 1 inch off of this thing anyway in order to get the SWRs where they're sitting now. And I still have a little bit of tweaking to go, but we have some pretty good results. So let's show you what we've got for results. So I'm going to just zoom in here a bit. There we go. Now my wattage meter is still showing really super high watt output, which I don't get because this thing's it's not a modified radio. So, but I've got it sitting on the 50 watt range right now, just because I don't really like it being pinned. But on 40 watts, let's go to calibrate. And we're on the set. SWR. Just under 2.5 on channel 40. Channel 1. We're at about 1.4. Go to channel 20, we'll go up the dial a bit. 1.5, 1.6, about 1.7 on channel 20. Let's go to 10. 1.4. Channel 30. Pushing 2. And as soon as I start going up the dial more, it starts to raise a bit. That's my modulation there. Alright, modulation's calibrated. So 39, just under 2.5, 40, just under 2.5. So that's actually doing really well. It could be shaved a little bit more, not a lot, but a little bit. And because when you start getting to this low, from what I've been reading, it's really finite amounts after that, like really fine, none of this 1/4 inch clipping junk at that point. So you want to go really fine if you want to super tune it. I really don't think this CB is going to get a 1-to-1 on all stations. It's just not feasible. But at least I know my meter's fine, my radios are fine, which I knew the radio would be fine anyway. The meter I suspected was okay because of the load test connector. When it took to the radio, everything went 1-to-1 with the load test connector, so you know, because it's a perfect match. So it was kind of a, yeah, so I called an expert in Toronto about this, and he just says, well, you got crappy antennas, buy a real antenna. And I'm like, you know, you don't have to insult me, but, you know, I'm thinking to myself. But the longer antenna I've got actually has a low coil issue and a couple other issues from the looks of things. So I'm going to have a bit of work ahead on me to try and get that one running, because I'd like to get it running as an indoor antenna. But this one here, the Canadian Tire one, for 15 bucks now that it's running right, and I'm sure if I would have even thought the low coil would have been the problem, because it didn't look like it physically, when I took it apart. I didn't think about plastic coating being on the ends, because you figure this stuff's made in the factory, they should know what they're doing. But when this is being the second antenna in a row where I had to clip so much off and not getting anywhere, it had to be the load. So if you do buy this antenna, it's an E2 antenna for 15 bucks at Canadian Tire. It's just a cheap little thing. Number one, make sure you take the plastic coating off each end of that coil if you don't have continuity. So use a test meter first and go from the bottom part of the stem to the top of the aerial, and if you've got continuity, then you're okay, because that antenna should be pretty much almost a one-to-one match. You shouldn't have to take hardly anything off of it. But the other thing is don't use it on a vehicle. Even though it's a magnet mount mobile antenna, the magnet is extremely weak. I'm even putting a complaint into the company myself about it, because that is an eyesore that you spend even 15 bucks, you expect it to stay on your roof of your car. And some of the reviews I read, you know, they're saying, you know, this one guy had put it back on his truck 4 times. There was like no wind outside, just what he was creating. And I noticed myself, it's got a pretty crappy magnet on it, so at least where it's located out my window here, I've got a lot of blockages, so I shouldn't have any wind issues. At least I'm hoping not. Otherwise I'm going to have to maybe glue the sucker down onto the stand and make it hold. But otherwise, for the results I'm getting now are really good. Now, as far as ground plane goes, guys, I'm not 100% believer that you got to have this 8x8 foot ground plane for one of these antennas. That's just ludicrous. You know, I've been into CB for a lot of years, been out of it for a lot of years too. But even before, I've never ever once had an issue with using this stuff the way I am. And I put this thing on my metal shelf beside me, which first got my SWRs down, so then I moved it outside, and of course it went back up, which I expected, so bring it down again. But anyways, what we're going to show you now is my new ground plane tower, as I like to call it. See if there's anybody on. Yeah, nobody running on channel 6. Anyway, let's shut that off. So I'm now about 7 feet away from the house, roughly. Definitely away from the house. And there's our Canadian Tire stand. Now on the very top of this stand, I've got a 6x8 chunk of pretty much 1/4 inch thick steel as my main plate. And of course there's that nasty low coil that gives you all that grief. And but anyway, so all I did was I gathered together all the scrap steel and Chinese metal I had kicking around from futon beds, and some other bars I picked up a while ago for scrap to make long legs. Made a pretty long base for it because I want it to be pretty much, you know, windproof type of thing. But also I wanted the weight at the same time. I even put in a cross member in the middle section here. And this is where I was actually going to stop, and then I thought, I gotta go bigger. I need taller because I want to be more level with my window, but I also wanted to be able to stretch my cable out further too in a straight line with that. So I thought, well, let's take some of this junky metal and keep going and see what happens. So we welded her all together, and the total height of this is actually 6 foot 6 inches long. Each one of those legs is about 7 feet long. And then of course we got that cross member piece that comes off of here, and it's all angle iron. The shafts below the cheap Chinese metal from the futons is actually angle iron, and then this plate here is actually from a snowblower, believe it or not. And then of course more futon metal down below, and then those legs and some angle iron bed frames, and hey, it works. It's not perfect and it doesn't look beautiful, but you know what, I wasn't going for looks. I needed some height for practicality purpose. If I could have gone taller, I would have, but unfortunately in my shop, going 6'6", it just barely made it out of the shop, and even that was an interesting little struggle to twist it out of there just right, because I wasn't gonna do welding at 30 some below outside, so did all this inside my shop and it worked out really well. So I'm very happy with the results, but I could have left it at the 2-foot tall thing, but then by the time you get the downward out the window, I wouldn't be very far from the house, and at least this way I'm not anywhere near the house as far as the metal eavesdropping goes or anything. I'm, you know, very close to about 7 feet away, which is working out well for me. If I had the extra cable, I would actually put it out a lot further, but I don't right now, and this is only a temporary solution anyway, because I am going to actually save up for a proper base antenna, set it up on the back of my shop, run the cable, and actually get a really nice sideband base station, but that's down the road. But for now, this is going to do me. So anyways, guys, I did actually add on some ground plane wires to see if, you know, maybe the top surface makes a difference, and that's where I noticed it actually made not one bit of difference. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to leave it like this, and this works really well. But like I said, just a little bit more tweaking on that antenna for the length, and I should have her as bang on as she's going to get anyhow with this antenna system. But it's still really good because I get to pick up a lot of stuff from all over, and I'm now going to be able to talk to a lot of people a lot better now that I'm not redlining all the time. So anyways, guys, that's what happened, and we found the issue. Now my other antenna, of course, has major issues, so we got more than just a low coil problem with it, and I'm gonna see what I can do with it. But in the meantime, that's pretty much the end of it. And thanks for all the guys that, by the way, that gave me some advice and some ideas, and, you know, racked your brains for me to come up with some solutions. You know, it all helps keep the thinking process going. I still don't know why my wattage is going out the roof. These are not modified CBs. Well, they shouldn't be anyway. But my wattage meter still does blast quite high. I'm set on the 50 watt range right now, so go down to the 5 watt and it pins it every time, no matter what channel I'm on. So go to the 50 watt and it's just over a watt. So mathematically 5 watts to 50 watts, that's 10. So it's on, say, a watt. So basically it says I'm putting out 10 watts instead of 5, which realistically I can't see that, but whatever. Maybe it'll sort itself out more once I get a better match on the antenna, hopefully, but if not, I really don't care. At least I know my modulation's good, because I got the modulation meter there, it's doing well. My SWRs have come way down, and I'm like, oh, thank you. Now I'm not going to blow anything up. So we're all good. Anyways, feel free to leave your comments, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.